Gavin has really gotten off to a wonderful stage of his career. He's received 2 Tony nominations, and he's just a remarkable person. Beyond that, because not only are we going to talk a little bit about his career and how he got to where he got, but also very interested in how he became both an artist and an activist, and talk about Broadway Impact, which he co-founded. So I'll sort of start this off with just kind of asking some questions. It's going to be very informal, and then I'm hoping that all of you will then be able to ask whatever questions you'd like to ask on any of the subjects that we start to cover. Okay? So, are you ready to start?
I'm ready.
There's a little water there in case you're dry. And
who's listening here?
And that's just the whole. No, it's not the whole world.
I just have to say I'm kind of buzzing about what just happened 5 minutes ago. I can believe it, but Ben, Jenny, and I we were sitting at breakfast this morning counting the minutes down, and it's truly, this is an historic moment for our country. Like, it's a huge, I hope everybody is able to realize that this is the last major step before we will hopefully have full federal, at least we will make the case at the Supreme Court level, on the national level, that it's unconstitutional to do what they've done, and then there will be possibly one more case after that, right? Because they will rule that what was done in California can't be done, and then once that precedent is set, then they'll be like, well, because of that court case, Perry versus Brown, now you can't, it'll be federal protection, and we will have full federal, I can't really.
Does it change the strategy that Broadway Impact will have in terms of how you're,
that's a good question.
And working for this?
I don't think so. Not at all. I know for sure that our focus for the first, well, since we started in 2008, was New York, and I'd like to think we were a very significant part of, but even a small part of making that happen, and it's now in New York. And once we got the marriage equality in New York and the law was passed, and we were there and we saw Cuomo speak that morning, it was amazing. Then we switched and we're like, okay, now we're going to focus on the national level, and it's going to be, well, however long this takes, but we're not letting up. And the great thing about our prime focus right now is this play, and that's why it's so exciting to be here doing this with all of you guys tonight. It's incredible. So no, we've got we're pretty much still on target. It's a national plan.
Well, we'll come back to this. I want to talk definitely more about this. But let's just start a little bit about you, and then we'll okay. find our way back to the issues.
Okay.
So let's just start with this. Was there a point when you'd say, all right, this is where my career began. This is where I really started. And what was that, and where did it lead you?
My career itself began when I was 20 years old, and I got my equity card in the ensemble of the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera. I mean, I count that as the beginning, because someone paid me at the time a whole lot of money to be an actor, and it was the first time I was on the Spirit of Chicago. I sang on Dinner Cruise Boat in a gold lame vest and sang the Boot Scoot and Boogie. And that was like my first job where I got paid to sing in public. But I got my equity card. My first theater job that I was paid for was in the ensemble of the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera when I was 20. And then from there, I say that for the young people who are here because it's my big break. When I say my career really took off was my first Broadway show, but to hear that is like, well, that could be never.
Was there a point even just where you just said, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do? Did it happen before college?
That was probably in my bedroom in the mirror when I was 7. I don't know. I think probably it was. I was probably getting accepted to college because I auditioned for 4 different schools and I got into all of them, and that was the first nod from the universe, like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this, because people like you said, yes, we'll take you, and we'll then break you down and teach you and talk to you about how it's done. So I think that was probably the first nod. As far as the career goes, though, I would have to say it was my first paycheck.
Yeah.
and paying that initiation fee for the union out of my paycheck from Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera.
Yep. Did you have support from your parents? Were they on
Yes.
board from the get-go?
I wanted to be a movie director all through high school. Like, I was dead set on going to college and becoming a movie director. And my parents were like, okay, calm down.
What do your parents do?
My mom, well, they're both retired now, but my dad he had the same job for 37 years, which doesn't happen anymore. He worked in business in Marathon Oil, and then my mom was an interior decorator. She wallpapered and painted people's houses. And every penny that she made wallpapering people's houses went into a college fund for her 3 children. So, and we were not, I had financial aid and student loans, but they worked their butt off to be able to put me into college. And yeah, they were just normal people. My dad isn't really a singer. My mom has a nice blender voice, we call it. She and my sister's all choir singers, no vibrato, just like, great is thy faith. Like church songs, hymns and stuff. But I got my music, I think, from my nana, my grandmother, my mom's side, and my father's father had a nice voice, but I wasn't really. My sisters were basketball stars in high school, and one's a Montessori school teacher, and one's a child psychologist, and I think I was just I'm the third child of 3, obviously, and and I have 2 older sisters, and I was just begging for attention. I was just showing off, and I think I just parlayed that into a career.
And Midwesterner, right? Ohio?
Yeah, Ohio. I grew up in Ohio.
So you stayed Midwest for your college. Had you looked east or west? Or?
No, I went Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Northwestern in Chicago, University of Michigan where I ended up, and Miami was my parents were like, you have to have an in-state college, a safety school. Yeah. And my sister went to Miami University in Oxford. It's a great school, but I didn't want to go there. And I ended up in Michigan, and it was honestly the best decision I made.
What made it such a good decision for you?
Because it was the first real decision I trusted my gut. I was in my head, I know you guys are probably going to do this to yourself, but like you'll think, oh, it's a better choice if I do this. This is going to make me a better actor. This is going to make me more. And in my head at the time, in a very naive sense, I thought Holly Hunter and Ted Danson went to Carnegie Mellon. And who went to Michigan? I don't really know. I mean, what am I doing? That's ridiculous. But I thought Michigan, and a guy I went to high school with went there, and I didn't want to follow in his footsteps. And I thought Carnegie Mellon's where they make great actors, and I want to be a great actor. But then I went and visited both schools, and I loved both schools, but there was just something in my gut when I went to Michigan. Whitney, I've told this story a million times, but Whitney Allen was a junior that year, and they were walking us through backstage, and they were doing The Most Happy Fella, which is my favorite musical now because of that moment. But they were walking us backstage, and the head of the department is very buttoned up and very like, well, here are the dressing rooms, and the students are coming they'll be coming in, and Whitney Allen backstage on rollerblades, oh, excuse me, ran into the wall. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm going. Whitney, let's get ready for the play. And she's like, hi. And she's taking her rollerblades off. And that was the moment it clicked for me. I was like, the people are why I go to college. Mm-hmm. I realized like that's why you want to be at school. You want to be surrounded by people who are, and I met wonderful people at Carnegie Mellon also. And a lot of my closest friends now were in that class. I was in a class. I was a senior in high school, and I was watching an acting class, and a girl named Sutton Foster was taking acting, and so I did not know her, and she wasn't Sutton Foster yet, and she only went to college 1 year, but she was there my senior year of high school. She was a freshman at Carnegie Mellon, and she was in that class, and she did a scene, and I don't even remember her last name, but I remember a girl named Sutton, and I never heard that name before. And so it's interesting how you make a decision about something, and you think, well, I thought, oh gosh, this is going to derail me because I should have gone to, should is a bad word, but like I should have gone here, or probably your life. What did you say? You said that great quote. It's exactly what you said.
All paths lead to where we stand.
Yes.
I didn't say it. Don McLean said it. But.
Well, yeah, but it's exactly that. What we were saying yesterday about you can make a million decisions, but there's only whatever choice you make,
Yeah.
you'll end up where you're meant to be.
Yeah,
I believe that.
so do I.
Yeah,
So do
and I love believing that, because in this business, it's really easy to think, well, I just had to make a decision about a job just recently, and I was like, oh, if I do this, and the pros and the cons, and I reminded myself of a sentiment without Don McLean to say that in my head, but like, whatever decision I make is right.
Yeah.
Even if I tank, even if I get terrible reviews, because there's something else for me to learn because of the reviews, or because of tanking, or because of the challenge that the part will present, or because of the success that I will find, or the money that I will make or I won't make. Whatever decision I make is the right one, because I made it. And truly, making the decision to go to college at Michigan was that first time when I went, oh, that's what it feels like to trust your gut, or to listen to your gut. And every time I teach or I talk to students, you got to start listening to that, because you're never wrong. Your gut is never wrong. And it's the minute you start thinking, well, it's probably better if I do this. This is what will help me. And if your gut goes against it, I promise you're going to be disappointed in yourself. It's just going to be a moment you're like, oh, I knew what I should have done. And sometimes it's not the popular choice, it's the guilty choice. It's the, So for me, Michigan was that first choice for me.
Not that this is a I should have kind of question, but just thinking about something that these guys will probably hear and not accept until they're a little bit older. But now that you've got some time between your college years and where you're at now, is there something, if you're like, if I could go back, if I could do college again, knowing what I know now, this is something I wish I'd done?
Yes, we were talking about this last night also. I wish I could teach senioritis. Who's a senior here? You have senioritis, right? You're gagging to get out of here. It's a natural thing. I can never, no matter what advice or anything I give, I can't talk. And juniors, who's juniors? You're going to have it. You're probably starting to get bits of it now. It will so for me to even say this is pointless, because it's just the natural path of things. But I'm going to explain what I believe has led us to senioritis and things like this. But the advice I would give us, I wish I could whisper in my own ear at this age, is stay in this moment as much as you can. Like, live right now, because it ends, and you'll never be young again. Like, that clicked in me when I turned 32, and I was in American Eagle, and I'll never shop in that shop again because it makes me feel old. But I was in there with a friend of mine who was buying a t-shirt for a 13-year-old girl, which is basically who should shop at American Eagle. But I was in there, and I was looking at I was standing, and I was kind of zoning out and looking at the picture behind the cash register, and it was this beautiful blue ocean, and this sailboat, and these beautiful, multiculturally diverse, smooth-skinned, wrinkle-free kids jumping off the sailboat and smiling, and they're muscly, and the girls are perky, and everything's just gorgeous. And I went, I will never be that again. I just realized it. It was a fact. I will never be young again. I'm 32 years old. I feel very young. And I think even my 70-year-old parents don't feel 70. They feel quite young still. But I wish I could have known in the moment, I don't have to worry about what's coming. I just have to be present in what is. Because now I turned 35 this year, and I really feel I learned this lesson. And it's personal life and professional life and everything. There is no ticking clock out there that's waiting for the big thing to happen or the big break. There is only this moment. And I think I would have come to some lessons more easily, or more quickly, maybe even, which actually sounds antithetical to what I just said. But I think if I could have just sat in the moment, I dare you, seniors, with the senioritis, sit in it, like wallow in it, like see if you can actually go, okay, instead of worrying about New York or LA or what's coming next, let's just trust that your senior year is going to end. Now let's just turn our backs on that for a second, what's coming, and let's just look at what is and see if you can dig into that moment. And it might just be, let's just go to Libby's and get a fierce salad, and not talk about the past. Let's just talk about what beers they have on tap, or what our favorite song is on the radio right now. Or it's going to be hard, or talk about class, or talk about, the amazing talk that I gave today. No, or talk about 8. You know, see, it's that would be. It's a general thing, but that would be the thing I would love to whisper to myself.
Not a bad thing to whisper into my ear right
For
now.
me now, it's something that I have to wake up and live completely in the moment. I have a dog. His name is Wally, and he's an asshole. People ask what kind of dog he is, and I say part hound, part asshole. But he has taught me the 2 biggest life lessons. One is because he has a lot of behavioral issues, and he's kind of quirky, and it's a stress of my life, but it's also a joy. One, the biggest thing is what I just said: live in the moment. Because I worry about he's been aggressive towards children on skateboards once or twice, and I'm like, what if I go on a tour, and what if I have to, do I leave him at home, whatever? I don't have a tour right now. I don't have a moment right now that I have to worry about that's down the line. So he forces me, is he safe? Am I safe? I'm not worried about senior year and where I'm going. I'm like, today I know he's with Ashley and she's taking care of him, and I check in and he's fine. So in a weird way, this dog's doing. And the second thing he's taught me, life lesson, is I have to love who he is, not who I want him to be. You know what I mean? He is this dog. He does have some aggression towards small black girls on skateboards. You know? He's like strangely racist, and it's so he likes, I don't know, and he doesn't like certain men with beards, and it's just this bizarre thing. But you know what? This is who he is, and this is the dog that I adopted, and I have to keep him safe and me safe and everyone else with beards, little black girls with beards on the skateboard safe. You know, it's just, and in a weird way, that life lesson that I've learned from that, I apply to like my life and
to acting. I mean,
oh my gosh.
Both of those things are like sort of core concepts in acting, like actually just trying to be here,
be present
and
in this
talk
moment.
to the person you're talking to, and really listen to the person you're listening to.
Yeah.
And don't judge your characters. I mean, actually accept your characters for who they are and live their life.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. What I appreciated last night watching the reading of 8 was all the choices that people are making and the things that are happening are different from what the 2 of us already. And it's the same text, but just watching different interpretations. And I celebrate. I'm like, awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you respond to it? Mm-hmm. And let it be how you respond. And then listening to you give notes after you gave all these great notes, and we were listening and thinking, I was like, oh, what about this? And every single thing you said in a very generous and fast, as you know, you guys had this much time to put it together, way. You just gently guide it. Philip Kerr, who did it in Michigan, did the same thing. He was like, I don't want to overnote you. Just let's go with our instincts or whatever, but just remember a little louder than is comfortable. We're going to let people know slower than is comfortable. And with every character you play, it's kind of that thing of, let's not worry about how my friend would play this part. Let's worry about how I can't judge. I can't be someone else. I can look at the text and look at the music and look at what it's telling me, and I can be. Let it be what it wants to be, according to me, according to my gut. What decisions I make with my gut, according to my life experience. It is acting, isn't it? Yeah. You know.
Who did you read, by the way?
Who did I read?
In
Michigan. I was Olsen.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had that was just great, and it was really.
Olsen, by the way, is one of the 2 lawyers arguing for the plaintiffs trying to overturn Proposition 8.
Yeah. Is anyone going to be able to come tonight? Are you coming? Oh, good. If you can come, you hadn't planned already. Please come, because it's really stunning work they're doing. And David, I see you out there. He is genius. Like the whole time, I was like, we had Bob Balaban play it, and then we had my friend Danny Gerwin play it at Michigan, and I was like, I asked Jenny, I said, I don't think they've got the person cast in LA, and I was like, let's get David to go out and do it. He's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and making sense of, he makes such beautiful sense of very difficult language and verbose language, and as do all the actors. But the judge has this bizarre position and he keeps coming back to, in the text, he keeps coming back to, now let's just take a second. I just want to understand. He has a couple moments like that he does brilliantly, so I can't wait to him rock it tonight, and the cast. And the fact that you're like doing it off Braille, I don't understand what you're doing. It's literally like miraculous. It's miraculous.
I've always said that. It's whenever I think the first time I saw David do something like that, I think you were giving a lecture, David. It might have been the Lindbergh lecture, perhaps. And it was like magic. To watch a person read with their fingers. But as an actor, to give a speech, I guess I can kind of understand. But as an actor, to have beats and to be, because it is all about listening. But that he's doing a reading, you're not memorizing. I mean, did you memorize some of it? I can't stand you. Because he's giving beats and taking time, and it's all happening. I can't even tell you what number is on the ends of my fingers are dead. I just don't understand. It's truly miraculous. And not to mention you're genius actors, so awesome.
Pretty good director, too.
What's that? You're a pretty good director, too? Yeah. I love it. Oh, yeah. What production were you telling me about that he directed? You were saying...
Boy, it could have been anything.
There was something recently that you just did.
Three Sisters was the most recent.
It must have been it. Well, it's awesome. The cast is awesome. You guys got to come see the show. It's going to be great.
We'll come back to this.
Please.
I want to just... I'll ask just a few more questions kind of about how you've developed as an artist.
Yeah.
Was there a moment or an event or a person that was like particularly transformative to you as your growth as an actor and as an artist?
There isn't one specifically. There are little bunches of people. I mean, truly, my foundation is my education from Michigan. My college education was it, and there were some key figures within that each gave me swords to hack down the mess of kudzu that's everywhere. That your mind just becomes this overgrown, impossible jungle of how am I going to do this? And then your professors go, here, I'm not going to do it for you, but take this knife. And now just start hacking away. And then I get to a new trunk that is Shakespeare, and Philip Kerr hands me, a knife, and then I hack that down because I know how to understand prose versus verse, and how to understand iambic pentameter and scansion and whatever. And then I went to London and I studied movement and Alexander technique and armed and unarmed combat, and I understand from Jerry DePuett how to phrase from the lyric as a musician, and what that is your breaths are not just opportunities for you to have an intake of air, but they're ideas. They're sung. A breath like something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Oh, my voice is busted. But you can hear Adina on that recording she has like this crazy, something has changed within me. Something is not, and some of it may be some crazy technique of hers, but I believe that is an example. Jerry DePuett taught me that. Like, your breath is sung. Your breath is music. Diane Paulus most recently taught me in a very roundabout kind of way, because we started off in a very complicated relationship, and now I'm very grateful to her, but she taught me, challenged me, and she was the director of Hair, Diane Paulus. She put me into a playground that was boundless and ruleless, yet had to have clarity and discipline, yet should not have appeared to have any clarity or discipline, should, for the sake of the story, whatever story Hair has. As you guys are doing Hair, you're like trying to find that story. She showed me, put me into a playground, and then said, go, but tell me the story and be clear with your word and be powerful with your word and work to the ends of sentences. And that was very helpful.
Could I follow up on that?
Yeah.
Because you worked with her with Hair, but then also Prometheus Bound at ART. I mean, but Prometheus was a musical.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I don't know. I was going to say they're so drastically different, but maybe not. But just how was the experience working with her on Hair different or the same from Prometheus?
Prometheus Bound was Serge Tankian, who's the lead singer and musician of System of a Down, band from the 90s, crazy, loud, not so screamy, amazing band that I knew nothing about before I auditioned. Well, I actually didn't audition for that one, but I didn't know anything about them. it was event theater at its finest. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of the only theater I ever want to do anymore, even though I'm going to do more proscenium theater and stuff. I like, there should be musicals done in this room. Like, this is an incredible space, and you could do an incredible thing in this room. We were in a bar, a working bar. It's her whole thing is like, she wants theater to be like, you walk into the space and it completely sets the audience off. They're like, where are we? What's going on? What are the rules? Whereas you sit down and your seat folds down, and you sit down, you know exactly what the rules are and how to behave. I love offsetting the audience's expectations, you know. And she, with hair, it sort of was in a proscenium house, but broke outside of the fourth wall, and it sort of demanded that the audience participate, even if we weren't crawling on their seats or pulling on their hair. It demanded that they be an active participant in, simply because the stage was covered in rugs, and the rugs spilled over onto, and the stairs were rugged, and then all of a sudden, so we were all in one space. The audience was very much part of. And what I learned from that, and that experience working with her on that, and Prometheus, was in a club, and the entire audience was standing for the whole 90 minutes, and I was on a plinth in the center, so everyone, and I was about 6 feet up, and I was like handcuffed and topless and sweating my brains out, and their heads were like right here, and my body was right here, and then they moved the plinth through, and we kind of moved through the audience and just had pushed people around, and then there was a stage at one point. It was really exciting to expand my idea of what theater could be, you know. And now I'm sort of like, we could do a play in my living room. We could do an amazing musical in my living room, and I'm going to start a project. Yeah, well, I'm going to have to soon. I'm going to be
Gavin's living room. I think it's a great name for a theater.
We're going to do I'm going to call them. I have a couple ideas, but I want to call them something like the Living Room series, where I'm going to invite my friends I'm going to invite Audra McDonald and Will Swenson, and Casey Nicolau is going to come direct one, and we're going to do them in my living room. And it's not going to be for an audience, and we're going to have, it's a concept that I want to use where food and theater, not dinner theater per se, but food and theater for me are my two favorite things, food and art. So we're going to do this cool thing where I'm going to invite handwritten invitations to the people that I want to come, and I'm going to tell them the part that I'm going to ask them to play, and I'm going to send them the script. And then we're going to do it with the play first, and then the ambitious thing is going to try to do it with the musical. But then I'm going to say, this is when you show up, make sure that you read through the play at least once, and then we're going to come and you're going to show up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're going to sit in my living room, and we're going to read the play with some crudité and Prosecco, and then we're going to all cook in my kitchen and have a feast, and we're going to eat and get nice and toasted. And then we're going to go back to my living room and read the play at 8 o'clock. And we're going to talk about the difference between the two, and then we're going to go home. And then I think I'm going to build a theater company out of that, but it's going to be surrounded by food and theater.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bread and puppet on another scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
just in terms of people that you've worked with, and I know you did Bounce with Sondheim, and it was Sondheim part of, I'm assuming it was part of it, so okay, we just have to ask, and I'm sure the students would be interested in knowing. All right, so there you are working with Stephen Sondheim.
Dream.
How did you maneuver through that experience?
I auditioned in 2002. 2002. Yes, 2002, in the winter of 2002, the fall, for a workshop for Bounce. And behind the table was Hal Prince, Stephen Sondheim, Paul Gemignani, the casting director. It was literally the people who I grew up watching on the... Do you ever watch the Sondheim celebration at Carnegie Hall?
Yes.
It was on PBS when I was a kid. I was a sophomore in high school, and I taped it on a VHS tape and wore the thing out watching Patti LuPone singing Being Alive, and Glenn Close singing Send in the Clowns, and Karen Ziemba, and I think it was Bill Irwin doing Sooner or Later or something. I can't remember what they were doing. But just this incredible thing, and I just was like, there they are. And I just got to work with Paul Gemignani for the first time, because he didn't end up doing the musician. We did a reading of One Night Only of She Loves Me in the City, and he music directed it. It was amazing. But Sondheim was there, and I was like, well, this is that moment. And I read the scene, and I nailed the scene, and the song was fine. But I always think I get my jobs because of the scene work, not because of my voice. Because my voice is what it is, and people know what it sounds like now. And I think there's a lot of singers in New York, but I think the way you get jobs is that you can sing really well and you can kill that scene. Like, you really know what the beats are. You know how a point of view. You're not musical theater acting. You're actually playing a real scene. And we did a scene. We were like in this. It was a train car, and it was a little table, and there were 2 seats just like this. And I was meeting this man on a scene on a train for the first time. And I got done, and Hal Prince was like, "Great job, great job." And he gave me one little note, and I did it again, and I left, and then I found out I got the workshop, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is literally one of my life's dreams coming true, to play a lead in a brand new Sondheim musical." When I was 22 and I went to my first agent's meeting, they asked, like, "What do you want to do?" And that was my answer. You should all, as your seniors, you should have a sentence in you ready to go with what you want to, like, if somebody asked, "What do you want to do?" Not something realistic, but also not obnoxious, but like, what's your dream? This is what I want to do. I want to play Elphaba and Wicked on Broadway, or I want to originate. Mine was I want to originate a lead role in the new Sondheim musical. And I said I can only do 50% of that. He has to write one. I didn't know what it was, and I have to get cast.
Yeah.
But I can, And I was there in the room, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. What if this happens? And it did. They called and they said, "You got the part." And then they told me the week the workshop was going to be, and I was going to St. Martin, the Caribbean, that week. And I was like, no, what do I do? And I made one phone call to see if I could get my refunded, and they won't refund my money, so I turned it down. And I was like, I hate to do this, but this is my life. My life has to come before my career. And my boyfriend at the time and I were having a rough go of it, and I was like, we have to go on this vacation together. This is important for my life. And I wrote Hal and Steve both notes, and I said, I'm really sorry to do this, but I can't do the workshop that week. I don't know if this is going to sound like crazy, but I have tickets in my only week vacation, and I just can't do it. And they both wrote me letters back. We understand. Have a great time on vacation. If this comes back around, we'll let you know. And it did. And I got the job. So that for me was like life. I wasn't being dishonest. I was trying to communicate. I don't want to piss you off, but I really need to go on this vacation. I need this for myself. And then they called me back, and I got to do it. Wow. And he was incredible. I mean, the piece itself was troubled, and it wasn't the most perfect musical by any means. But I didn't care. I was in the room with Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim, and David Caddick ended up being the music director, and he now produces he was the music director of Mary Poppins and Phantom of the Opera and Les Mis, and he's a huge music director, and I just got a dream to come true, and I was 27 years old. So,
only because I'm keeping just a half eye on my watch, because I want to make sure that there are students and other people in the audience have a chance to ask some questions too. But I do want to know. So here you are, not only as somebody who's really working hard at a great career as an artist, but you're also somebody that seems to be as equally passionate about what's going on in this world.
It's new though,
and I want to find out what happened. How did you become politically active, and at what point?
It was by accident. It was truly by accident. Like, I was never political. I never talked about stuff. I was raised that you don't talk about religion, politics, sex, or money, which now it's all I ever want to talk about. But like,
I want to ask you in what order.
Yeah. But I just honestly, I'm gay, and I wasn't out publicly, and I was protective of it because I didn't want people to pigeonhole me or decide before they met me that I didn't want to be introduced as I'm a gay actor. And I realized I'm not a gay actor. I'm an actor. I'm a person. I'm a Christian. I'm a million things. I'm not a gay this or a gay that. That's what people might call me, but that's their problem and their own narrow-mindedness. But my hope. Well, I was doing an interview with Out magazine before I started rehearsals for Hair. I hadn't even gone to the first rehearsal for Hair. It was January 9th, I think. I was at this interview, and it was in Brooklyn, and I had just met the press people that morning that were going to do press for Hair, and I hadn't met the cast, and it seemed so backward, but they wanted to get an interview in Out magazine about me, and I was like, okay. So I went and I did the interview, and at the interview, I did the photo shoot, and I hate getting my picture taken, and got the photo part done, and then they put me back in this back office with Justin Ocean, this writer for the magazine, and he was asking me all these questions, and then he said, okay, so Claude is troubled. He's like, is he bisexual? Is he not? What's going on? And what's his relationship with Berger? And I said, honestly, I have no idea yet because I haven't started rehearsals, but I'm looking forward to figuring that out. And then he said, well, and he was kind of doing this half thing where he was writing and kind of like looking up at me, kind of like, I'm just curious if you maybe in your professional life, or I don't know, maybe your personal life, you have anything that, I knew what he was asking. He was trying to get me to come out, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. And then I just said it. I had no agenda. It wasn't calculated. There was no anything to it. I was just like, screw it. I'm 33. My mom and dad know, my sisters know, my best friends know. They all love me and accept me for who I am, as they should and as they do, and I'm grateful for. And then I just thought, screw it. Who cares? I have a great career. If it all stops after the show, I'll do something else. Someday I want to be a professor. And if that starts sooner because of it, good, I'm ready. And then he said it, and they printed it, and it made a little to-do for a second, which was pathetic, because I'm not Zac Efron, and I'm not Taylor Lautner, I'm not famous. I'm just this guy who's doing Broadway shows, and I'm known by a certain population of people. And I thought it was kind of sad that it kind of made a bit of news, because I realized that people don't come out. People aren't out of the closet. There's a lot of gay people who are not out of the closet. You got to come to it on your own. But that's how it started. And we were also at the same time building Broadway Impact, because at the time a friend of mine had called me and was like, what do you think about getting involved? And I thought, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. So we went and had some meetings, and then Obama was elected, and I was more involved in a presidential campaign than I'd ever been before with that. And on the same day, Proposition 8 was passed, and I thought, how can these two things happen? And I met Jenny and Rory, who are the two co-founders, that weekend at a rally, and then we met a couple days later officially and sat down, and we started cooking up ideas. And it was an accident, really. It wasn't anything. We didn't set out to make something that was going to be doing what we're doing now. We wanted to organize our friends in the theater community to become more active, to become more vocal, because we just sort of thought we could do something. And it was kismet. Broadway Impact would not have succeeded were it not for Hair. Hair made Broadway Impact succeed. And in turn, this little startup organization gave validity and power to Hair's message, because the producers all put their weight behind what I was up to, and the cast put their weight behind it. And all of a sudden we were organizing a rally in Midtown in 10 days, and the mayor and the governor and the national news and Cynthia Nixon and Cheyenne Jackson and Audra McDonald and Douglas Carter Bean and all these famous people, and the Hair cast of Hair is starting it off, and there's 5,000 people standing in the street. And then we organized 25 buses that send 1,500 marchers down for free to go march in the National Quality March. And that was our doing. And now 8 is happening. And
now did you seek out Dustin? Did Dustin seek out you? I mean, how did the play come to be?
He was like our dream author, and he wasn't. Well, I mean, for me personally, I watched the Oscars the year that he won for Milk, and I was like in tears at the end of his speech, because I thought, for the first time, some young, gorgeous man is standing on screen and he's speaking to me in a way that he wasn't uber, he wasn't wearing a boa, and he wasn't in heels, like the way that the other side casts us as gay men, that we're all effeminate and do this. No, some of us are effeminate, and thank God some of us are effeminate, because that's just who they are. Who cares? Whether they like to dress in drag or they like to wear suits and speak like truck drivers, whatever, who cares? But I just saw a man that I thought I resembled quite a bit. It's just a, skinny white dude who just is there saying that he believes in rights and protections for the LGBT community. And I then thought, how can I marry him? And then I thought, after I gave up on that, we were talking about possibilities for people to Rory's idea was to create a play, and we were brainstorming ideas of people who could write and people who could direct. And I remember cornering him at the GLAAD Awards because we had sort of gotten to him at that point. And then I went right up to him and I was like, so I hear we might work together. I was kind of pushy. And then he was like, yeah, I think we might. Well, we'll have to talk about it. And I wasn't sure if he was on the fence or not. But then we followed up, and it was a bunch of many, many other things that came to pass but he agreed to do it. And then it was a long, arduous process to get it to happen. And Jenny stuck by it, our executive director, and it helped us to grow our relationship and the Broadway Impact's validity, and her establishing that she is the executive director of this organization, and Rory's idea and Ben coming on board and becoming instrumental in the process of us having a national outreach. And it started with an idea in an apartment. That's it. It was not, we did not set out to become, and we have way bigger things that we want to tackle past this. Once we achieve this, then I have ideas and passions that will then become a way to galvanize a political voice in the theater community that may, once we have federal equality for marriage. I want to go back and re-examine what Broadway Impact can be, because Broadway Impact isn't Broadway Gay Impact, Broadway LGBT Impact, it's Broadway Impact, and our sole purpose at this moment is marriage equality. But then we're going to go back in and stay with the gay community, but I have dreams of engaging the theater, because we have power as artists in the theater community to awaken, to enlighten, to engage, to captivate people. We have the experience as artists, as actors, in a way that movies don't. That it's this experience we're having right now. It's a breathing, living experience. It's not a two-dimensional or now three-dimensional, whatever, but they're up there and they filmed it ages ago and they're not even talking to one another. We stand on a stage, we speak words, we communicate in a message in a way that is visceral, and mistakes and bleeding and sweating, and the power that has is politics. Like, it is surgery. Surgery used to be called the theater. It is real skin and blood and bone. If we can treat it with that and then have the capability to entertain and then educate at the same time. We don't always have to be doing Eighth Play. We can be doing the Scottish play, and we can make a comment on war, and we can, or on ambition, and we can make Three Sisters and talk about whatever Three Sisters talks about. I don't know that play as well as I should. But, there's such power we have as actors, and I didn't really realize it. At the earlier question, what changed my life and really galvanized, hair really showed me not only how I can reach across the aisle and become, like in a tactile sense, connecting physically with people, but I can truly affect people, and I will never go back to being the actor that I was before I did that show.
Well, and I talk about this a fair amount because we've had this sort of international initiative where we're bringing in international playwrights from various cultures that our students wouldn't normally have a chance to know anything about.
That's great.
And part of the premise is the audience gets an experience, of course, from seeing the play, but there's something about living somebody's life on that stage and how it affects you and how it really can open your eyes to things or awaken things that were dormant inside you.
Well, I also think hair had more of an impact now because there was a 40-year difference. I think at the time, it's what 8 is doing now in a weird way. Even though 8 is I call it a theater piece, right? Less than a play, because it's literally, it's a lot of words, it's very verbose, but it's what is happening right now. I mean, you're literally living. You're going to go see a play, and today you just heard this historic decision. Mm-hmm. You're going to go see the play, and it's going to mean something totally different to the actors tonight, isn't it? It's just going to take on something. I mean, the buzz you guys are going to feel tonight playing those parts, and knowing that you're a part of a living, breathing piece of theater that's going to go out into the world and affect change. But hair, I think it had even more of an impact now. Initially, it was just shock and awe, but now it spoke to people in a way that, like, we're re-examining what it is to be equal. We're re-examining what it is to be... Have we progressed? It's been 40 years. Why are we still at war? 2 wars, and why are we still killing and fighting? And, why are we not in the streets? Why are we complacent? Why isn't the American public, why are the American youth more obsessed with, Twitter accounts than they are with protesting? And yes, we can find a way to use both and do both at the same time. But I need to look up from my computer and get into the streets, And appreciate that. I also think the youth are underestimated. You know, I think there's a lot more power there than people give credit for, and they're a lot smarter with computers. And, well, yeah, you guys marched in the streets in the 60s, but you also didn't have answering machines. How about this? How about we do a computerized call center? We cover way bigger ground, and they're inventing, you guys are inventing computer programs and social networks that can reach a lot more people faster, but we can use it for, it's exciting to me. I feel like I've talked a lot.
They're great. They're just wonderful seeds, though, that I think you just planted.
Good.
Good. Yeah, let's turn it over to you guys, because we've got about maybe a little less than 10 minutes. So some questions that you'd like to pose.
Anything. Yeah.
I'm from Canada, and we just had there was a recent kerfuffle, I guess you could say, where there was a same-sex couple. There was a woman from Florida and a woman from England, and they came to Canada to get married.
Yeah.
And as they were figuring out this divorce case, one of the government lawyers said, well, since same-sex marriage isn't legal in Florida or England, it's not valid in Canada, and therefore no same-sex marriages are valid in Canada because they're not valid anywhere else. And that was obviously huge controversy erupted. And I'm just wondering, even though we are going state by state, and even though today's news is incredible, what's the step towards more universal marriage equality? Is it
Federal.
really DOMA?
DOMA's obviously has to go away before anything can happen. And I believe Barack Obama, before he has to go up for re-election, is going to come out for marriage equality publicly. I believe it. I think that's also going to be a political move on his part, because I think there's a lot of complacent, apathetic people who woke up for the 2008 election and were like, oh my gosh, and now they're, for some reason, over him, which annoys me, because I am going to get political. He's my candidate, and he's still my candidate, and I'm sticking by him. But I think that could be a galvanizing thing that could, those people who are a bit, oh, whatever, I don't want to be part of the political process. I think if he can have the courage to do that, I think it could, all right, that's the Obama that I want to see in the second term. I want to see you, whatever. But that's interesting. It's an interesting point, because I have a friend who, his partner, it's similar in the States, but he and his partner went to, or his ex-husband, and he went to Vermont, lived in Vermont, and got married in Vermont, where it was legal. And then they broke up, and and then he came to New York and is living in New York and met my friend Seth, and now they're in love and they want to get married, but they can't legally get married. Well, they can now in New York, but they can't, because he's still technically married to that man in Vermont, but he can't get divorced to that man unless he moves back to Vermont for 6 months. So he has to move his life. We can't even get divorced. And people are like, but the problem is people then put this undue pressure on gay couples, like that you have to stay married. Now that's not fair, because the divorce rate sadly is over 50%, I think. And it's just a legal right you have. You have a legal right to get divorced. It's a nightmare process. I've had straight couples and it's a painful, awful, legal nightmare battle. But it's got to be in a right that's afforded to gay couples as well. And that's interesting, because there's the binational argument, because if I go to England, which I've been, London's my favorite city. If I go to London and I fall in love with a British guy, I can get married to him over there, but I'm not recognized here. And then all the things that go into, I go to Mississippi for a talk, and I have an arrhythmia, and I go into the hospital and I lose consciousness, and he's with me. Mississippi hospital may be a Christian hospital that's closest by, and they'd be like, no, we don't have to, we're not legally required to treat you, or we're not. That's where it gets tricky, because then a religious hospital, let's say it's not a religious hospital, let's say it's just a hospital, and they're like, you're what? You're a partner? And they're rushing me to the emergency room. I don't know what you are. We have a civil union in New Jersey. What's a civil union? We're from Mississippi. I don't know what you're talking. I'm sorry, we don't have, you have to wait outside. Like that. That's it. And then I go unconscious, and I've told him before I go, I don't want to be this, this, and this. Make sure they don't do this, this, and this. He knows exactly what I want. He's my partner of 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, whatever. We just got married. I don't have that protection. I don't have that protection in, if I am married to someone, my partner and my husband, and I die, the federal government can take half of everything that I own. Whereas if I was a straight couple, they tax. They tax, I think, 50% or something. There's no tax if it's a married couple federally. Social Security. If I die, I don't get, the straight couple gets Social Security of their partner. There's protections. There's so many more things that I'm not as educated on. I'm educated enough to know that it's BS. That's enough. I know enough to know that. So I guess it's a really long-winded not answer to your question, but it's just a log on the fire, isn't it? Canada supposedly got it all figured out.
There's that giant gap in the legislation.
Oh, giant. It's called the divide between America and Canada. The national line. So, good questions, though. I love that you're... More. Tell me more. Come on. More questions. Anything. Anything. At all in the world.
Question?
Please.
So you told us that your dream was to be an original character in a song. How do you revise that now that you're 35?
Good. Go ahead.
Realizing you're older?
Well, as far as career goes, I don't have them anymore. I'm open to anything.
Okay.
But I'm also not interested in certain things. I turned 35 this year, and I just kind of went, I have no idea what I'm doing. And for the first time in my life, I kind of feel good about it. My career dreams, long term, is I'd like to have a professor position at a really good university someday. I'd like to have a family. More now, it's life dreams. Like, I want to buy a house in the woods near some water, and I want to learn how to refinish wood floors. Like, I have real dreams like that. I want to be a father. I don't know how, but I think I want to. I have a dog that I want to beat every day, so I'm not ready for kids. I got to work on my patience. But for me, it's more life dreams now. I want to learn. I want to take cooking class. I want to learn how to do black and white photography. I want to write a musical. I want to direct. Like, really want to direct. Yeah, I want to just direct musicals, and I want to go to the other side of the table. I want to be more in charge, less, the one that's just there to try on an outfit and say lines. I want to be the one writing the lines and telling people how to say them.
Believe it or not, we're at 2 o'clock already. But I do want to say that it's been, I don't know how long. It was quite a while ago now, I think, when Ben called and asked us if we wanted to do this. And
so grateful that you did. So grateful.
And
bravo to
we're glad that we did. And I don't even think there was any hesitation. I don't know, Ben. I think we were we were exchanging emails and saying, okay, let's make this happen pretty quickly. And it's funny. I mean, we were pretty much on board, but Ben was saying, well, and Gavin, if he could fit it in with the schedule, might be willing to come up and do a workshop and do this, and and I'm sure Ben's thinking, maybe he wanted to see this happen, and he was trying to sort of sweeten the pot a little bit, and I didn't have the heart to tell him, we're going to do it, Ben. Don't worry about it. Well, as long as you're offering.
We knew that, though. We knew with the energy that you guys came at it, and the fact that we're honored. Well, honestly. Well, and I'm honored to that you asked me to sit on this little rug.
Well, I just want you to know that really from the bottom of our heart, we were just so thrilled that you were willing to spend some time with us because you didn't have to.
No,
and it's meant a lot to me personally, and I know it's meant a great deal to the students. We've got just a little going away gift, which isn't for tomorrow. But, well, actually, you can open up here.
I'm going to.
And
are these your colors?
The blue and white.
Blue and white?
The UNA colors. Not blue and yellow, but...
Oh, yeah. Wait, did you ask them about... Did they ask the size? Because the size is perfect.
It's just, Nancy's very good at this sort of thing.
She's like, he's gay. He's not going to... Yeah, right on. Yeah. For a second, I thought it said athletics. I was like, I love it. Thank you.
So, on behalf of all of us, Gavin, thank you so much.
My pleasure.